Welcome to Dojo Live, the place where top minds in travel and hospitality check in to share insights and breakthroughs shaping the industry. Brought to you by Encora, your trusted partner for AI, cloud, and data-driven innovation. Enjoy your stay. Hello and welcome to another episode of Dojo Live this Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. It's here where we have candid conversations with industry leaders tackling the biggest technology challenges in travel and hospitality. I am your host, Kim Lantis, and today we're kicking off a brand new series, Powering Hospitality, Insights from Hospitality's PMS leaders. So over the next 2 weeks, we'll be joined by experts from leading PMS and hospitality tech companies to share their insights on AI, automation, cloud-based solutions in PMS, the challenges of interoperability, evolving, how it's driving personalization, revenue optimization, and so much more. But before we dive into that, I would like to introduce my co-host today, America Guerrero. America, thank you for joining me again.
Hello, Kim. Hey, Charlie. This is so exciting. We're kicking off the PMS series. The RMS was so exciting as well, but this is going to be another whole universe, right?
That's right. A whole new universe, a whole new set of technology, innovation, and pushing our way forward. We're going to jump right in. Thank you, Charlie Green, Senior Director of Product Strategy Innovation at Skytouch, for joining us today. Charlie, your episode is going to be about building for hoteliers, the art of simple, smart PMS technology. We're going to be discussing how the right PMS technology can reduce training time, improve efficiency, and also ease hotel operations. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to kick off this series. Here at Skytouch and me personally, having been in this business, I started actually working in hotels. And so when I think about building technology, I'm always thinking about, and quite frankly, I'm thinking about the days that I spent, working a night audit or checking in folks in the evening and, sometimes walking a guest or, all the experiences that you have at a hotel. And one of the things that, I really try to focus on is, what are these folks doing? They're not actually waking up every morning and saying, I cannot wait to go use a PMS. As much as I wish that was the case, sometimes they're not, right? They're focused on operating a hotel. Mm-hmm. We are a tool. I mean, sometimes people call me that, but in this case, we really are a tool, and we need to know that. We need to understand, and we really devote a lot of time and energy trying to understand, how do I build something that does these complex tasks that's really helping automate them at the hotel level. And one of the interesting things about a wide variety of experience at hotels that I have, my team has, is every hotel is different. I have yet to go to a hotel that is the same. We do not
even under the same brand.
No, right? At McDonald's, the hamburger is cooked exactly the same way, no matter where you go. At a branded hotel, you don't necessarily get that experience. It's a different owner. The rules and the procedures are not quite as locked down. Now, you're going to get the same waffle. You're going to get the same bed, but the processes and procedures are different. And so for us, it's really important that we create these complex tasks that are done several different ways, but do it in a way that appreciates simplicity is key.
Absolutely. And that what you already said today in your introduction reminds me of what we were talking about as we were preparing for today's conversation. And it's something that you had said that really stuck with me. And that was describing Skytouch as hotel people building for hotel people. And I think you already dove into kind of a bit about what this means to you and how it's shaping the way Skytouch approaches their PMS technology. But can you tell me what excites you most about this type of approach?
Again, this is such a vibrant industry. it is so many things to so many people, to guests, to empowering owners. You know, a hotel in a community can really make a difference. It can drive employment. It can drive a lot of things. You know, it's endless the impact it can have. And I think what makes us really different is because we have a lot of folks who actually have a long-term exposure to hospitality.
Mhm.
When we originally founded Skytouch about 12 years ago, we had over 1,000 years of hotel experience, and my lights and
What?
cameras just went off. And they're back.
Clap
They're
on.
back. Yes. So yeah, we actually went through and we asked everybody, tell us how long you've been in hospitality, and it was over 1,000 years.
Wow.
And that's people that do engineering, so our folks that develop software, the folks that you call when you need help in our offices here in Scottsdale. They've actually worked behind the lines and up and down the organization across it. So when we actually think about it, we're putting ourselves in the shoes of our customers. Now, I happen to have always had a passion for technology and how computers work and how software is done. And so I've spent, you know, the last 20 odd years in hotel software. And so I get to, for me, I have the best job in the world because I get to do the thing I'm really passionate about, which is hotels. And I get to do geeky stuff with computers.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that? No, they don't let me code anything, which is probably best for everybody. But we really have a strong group of people up and down the organization that understand the business first. Because if you don't understand the business, any technology is not going to be great. Right? We've seen technology for technology's sake. That's not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's really important that you understand what your customer's experience is, what they go through on a day-to-day basis, understand why they didn't read your release notes, why they didn't have the opportunity to spend 80 hours training somebody on how to use software, which a gazillion years ago when I was in the field, I was once trained for 3 weeks straight on how to train people to use hotel software. Then I spent weeks training people how to use hotel software. Now I can still remember some of the keystrokes that would tell me my arrivals list, would pull up my arrivals list in that software. So it worked. But it's pretty expensive way. And in today's day and age, you know, I often say, Amazon doesn't do any training, but I'm an expert user.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon.com
Exactly.
and I were tight. You know, how do we do that kind of software and put that in a tool like a property management system?
So you do understand the pain that hoteliers experience. And I'm really curious, now that you have these both sides, do you think that there is a misconception that good technology has to be complicated? How does usability, especially in PMS, impact things like training?
Oh, well, let's get one thing straight.
Mhm.
It is complicated. And these tools, the jobs that hoteliers are doing today is so much more complicated than it was, you know, 30 years ago when I was behind a front desk. So it has gotten really complicated. The trick is, how do you hide that complication with the simplicity and appreciation that the second highest cost of any hotel is labor? And in North America in particular, our labor pool for entry-level hotel positions is high school graduates, right? You're not seeing, now we have some fantastic hotel schools. And I've got a couple of colleagues that went there. But what you find in the vast majority of hotels, these are entry-level roles. And they tend to be a bit more transient. than what you'll see in different fields. And so we as software creators can help play a role in one, even appreciating that that's what's going on in the real world. And then how do you create software that makes that super easy and appreciates, boy, I don't know how long this person is going to be with my hotel. I hope a very long time, right? That's what I hope. And if I have the right tools and my doing their work is easier, maybe they'll stay longer. But when you don't know that, the risk of needing to train somebody for 40 hours or even 20 hours in software, make that investment and then they walk away.
Yeah. And I think to your point too, in terms of who the entry-level individuals are, age, how old they are, the technology that they're used to using is simple. It's fast to respond. They don't need to even think about things like keystrokes, right? And so if you're then throwing them into something that's completely different, like if I were to tell my daughters how to utilize a rotary phone or pop, my daughters do know how to pop a VHS. I do have a VHS player. They watch all my old Disney videos from my childhood. But my point being, it's like, what is going on here, right? And so to your point also about not just the training time and the operational side for the hotel to get the day-to-day going as soon as possible, it's about employee satisfaction, that they enjoy what they're doing, that they're going to hopefully stick around and kind of facilitate that. About the training time, I want to give you the opportunity to sort of toot your own horn here for a second. You had mentioned you remembering your days of 80 hours plus training, weeks of training, and then training other people. How long does it take for someone new to learn a new Skytouch user to kind of feel confident using your PMS on their own?
Well, I don't want to discount. We have some fantastic training and those resources are amazing. And if you want to spend longer, you can. But it is not uncommon for us to have customers tell us, hey, I can have somebody new at the hotel after a shift. I can take them and train them in a shift and get them the basics so that they're comfortable enough that I can leave them on their own to go in the back, count the money, do other tasks, or even, leave them alone with a cell phone rescue plan. The other great thing about, in today's day and age, which certainly didn't happen back in my day, was, you can call somebody and then they can pull up their phone and go into the PMS on their phone and help you solve the problem. Right. So the world's just very different. But yeah, many hotels say one of the things they love about our platform is it is so easy and simple. They can have people up and running in a shift.
What does that mean for them in terms of?
It depends, but that's certainly what we hear.
Absolutely. And what does that mean for the hotel in terms of like the day-to-day operations? What benefits does that ease of use bring? And even is this for complex processes, like you had mentioned earlier, your own experience with night audits? How is all of this making, this well-designed PMS not getting hung up on the complexity of things, making things easier and more efficient for the hotel?
Well, one of the best things I love to see is, when a computer is working well, you have the time to take care of the guest. Rather than scowling at a computer that isn't doing what you want it to do, you can actually smile and welcome the guest, which is the core of what we do. That is where the hospitality meets the road, right? Is that smile at the front desk? Is that welcome, happy team member? Welcome. If you have a happy team member, you're most likely going to have happy guests, and happy guests return and pay more, hopefully. So that's really where it comes down. That simplicity and ease of use are so important. You do think about complicated processes. And one of the other things that folks love about our platform is the audit itself. You can push a button and it's done. But you don't even have to do that. You can say every morning at 4 a.m., kick off my night audit, and it'll do it automatically for you. It'll email all the reports to the people that need them. There's no more printing and stacking and, putting things in boxes. It's all done for you and stored electronically. So these are what used to be very complicated, time-consuming processes that now just take seconds.
Wow.
Wow. So beyond easy of use, how does an intuitive PMS directly contribute to guest satisfaction and overall revenue performance? I know we are no longer making
Jumping ahead.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Again, happy guests, happy guests, happy guests. Team members who have tools that work for them have the time to care for the guest, have the time to go that extra mile. And that service, no matter what flag is on the outside of your hotel, it's the service inside the hotel that's going to make all the difference. That was taught to me very early on in my career. A smile is free.
Yeah.
One thing that will really take a smile off my face is when my technology fails me.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been there when you might have come in a great mood and your computer doesn't boot up, or that one piece of software isn't working, or it's, making that really annoying thing that you can't figure out why, right? We've been there when we want to throw our coffee across the room in our offices. We can't have that at the front desk. We cannot have that at our hotels. And that's where simplicity, software that works, becomes so important. And things do go wrong.
Yeah.
Even in our fantastic platform, sometimes things go wrong. Then it becomes really important to know who's got your back when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so for us, that's the other piece that people tell us they love most about our platform and our service, is because we have those people that understand what happens at a hotel throughout the organization. They're the people that you call when there's a problem.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So that's where it all comes together, and the complexity and the simplicity. It's not just a product design problem. It's not an engineering problem. It's not a service problem. It's all of it coming together. But again, back to that appreciation, that smile at the front desk is profitable.
Absolutely. Because I think the ease of use is now overflowing, right, into other things like that might be stressing us out. Or if we go back to that new hire, someone who's entry level, who's maybe never worked in hospitality before. I mean, they're already nervous about looking, I imagine, at least at the very start, right? About looking that guest in the eye, trying to remember the standards and how I'm supposed to greet someone and what I'm supposed to say, and whatever else that might entail. Or if they're asking a question, do I know the answer to this question? Am I answering correctly or not? And then have to look down at, the tooling that they're using and being like, oh no, I don't remember how to use this. So I think it's just this snowball effect, but in the absolute best way.
Yes. Actually, in addition to this example that you shared, Charlie, about being at the front desk and having the system, is there another example that you can share? A common challenge hoteliers face and how technology can or maybe can't solve it?
Yeah, one of the things I also did in my past was I was the assistant executive housekeeper of a lovely hotel in the Bay Area of California. And back then we used paper. I had a little list and kept track of what rooms needed to be cleaned, what rooms had been cleaned, what rooms had been inspected, which rooms were ready for the guests. And then you took that little piece of paper all the way back from the 10th floor down to the basement where the housekeeping office was. So you could put them into the computer so that the people at the front desk could check in the guests who've been waiting there to figure out, when they were going to get and what room they were going to get. With these new systems in place, today, our hotels can pull out their phone, update the room. As soon as it's updated, they're done. So they're not walking 20 rooms and then going back down to update things. They're not having to mash special codes into a telephone to release the rooms.
They're not accidentally throwing away a piece of paper.
They're not, or losing a piece of paper with a bunch of PII on it, right? Also not cool. And so all of those things come together, giving you a more efficient and secure process to manage the actual operations of the hotel, not just the front office operations.
Yeah. As we're talking about this, one of the things or several things that kind of have come up in conversation on the technology side, I'm hearing like the utilization of cloud, utilization of other, formats rather than just a desktop computer, but mobile, I'm assuming tablets coming in and all these other things that you're able to do to increase ease of use. What does this mean for the hoteliers when they're looking to choose a PMS that's truly going to meet their needs? What's that process that you suggest that they kind of follow, or what's the sort of checklist that you would recommend that's going on and things to consider?
Well, first and foremost, really understand what your hotel needs. Come into the marketplace. There are a plethora of choices in our space. But if you understand, what is it that your hotel really needs? What is your distribution platform? What kind of integrations do you need? What is your labor situation? There are certainly fantastic hotels out there that are blessed with great labor resources, people that have been there a long time. What's their learning curve going to be? Right? If you're in the market for a PMS today, you most likely have had a PMS before. Why are you making the change? What is it that you're looking for? I personally want to make sure that I know the recurring usage, right? The recurring training that you're going to need to do. Labor's fluid. What's that going to look like? When something does go wrong, who's going to be there to help you? No matter the system, things happen. Who's going to hold your hand to get through that? Who can you escalate any kind of issues to? Where are they at? We talked about what kind of integrations. That's a big concern, right? If the PMS is one part of the stool, right? Who's working on your website? How are you distributing those rooms? What's your CRS strategy or distribution strategy? And how does that work with your property management system? Those are the things folks often come to us and ask questions about. And that's where we really see, do you know what you're after? And also, what's the value you're looking for? If you are going into the marketplace looking for the cheapest option, you will get it. You will get it, but you may be in the market again sooner than you'd like. And changing the property management system at a hotel is a major operation. You don't want to do it multiple times. So if you can limit that, that's really key.
Okay, so I think you already gave us 2 keys for the questions that I have. So for those building hospitality technology, what advice would you give? What should they be asking themselves to create solutions that truly help hoteliers? And you already shared to think, what's the market out there? What are you doing? So are there any other keys that you can share with the audience?
Well, I think from a technology.
Sorry the interruption, but I think the question here is to flip it. So we talked about what hoteliers could kind of look for, but in terms of tips you might have for the builders, I think, of the software.
Oh, yeah.
The question.
Yeah. I think it really, I'm not sure this is specific to building hotel software for hoteliers. We really focus on trying to understand what's the problem. What are we trying to do with the software? I could add a tic-tac-toe game to our software. Why would I do that? I often think of it as, trying to understand that problem. You may be going out for lunch and somebody says, hey, can you grab me a burger? Right? Cool, I can totally do that. But is the burger the problem? Right? Is the problem that they want a burger? Or is the problem that they're hungry and they're looking for something quick? Right? If they gave me the $5 to go get the burger and I said, hey, I know a guy, he can make you a T-bone steak with or with a baked potato with all the fixings for the same $5, he might want that, because his problem wasn't that he was needing a burger. It was he was hungry, he was on a budget. So as we think about trying to understand what the problem truly is, we get a lot. We have the benefit of 140,000 users of our software. They have a lot of feedback, which we love. And so we get that. My office lights keep going off. Automation.
One of the things technology can't solve, I guess.
Yes. Remember that frustrating not smiling part when technology fails you? But really trying to understand what the problem is, because I think when you do that, you're given the ability to deliver beyond expectations. And this is truly where maybe my hotel guy keeps coming out, because I want to exceed expectations, just like when I was in operations at hotels. And I think we can do that in software. And I think as people who figure out what to build in software and how to do it, exceeding expectations is really key. And there's a thread line for me that goes through it.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of something that really stuck with me as we were also preparing for this conversation. I think here you said something about identifying the problem is more difficult than creating the solution, right? The coding side or the creation side. And so the biggest tip I'm hearing here is take the time to make sure that you're solving the biggest problem, the true problem at hand, the series of whys, or the your tic-tac-toe example. Okay, well, why does it need to be there? Why should it be there? You also mentioned 140,000 plus users of your technology. We're kind of coming to the final few minutes of our conversation today, and on all of my Dojo Live conversations, if I step back and think of some of these commonalities, one of those is that how incredibly powerful data is when it's used correctly. So with these 140,000 users that you've got, what kind of insights have you been able to gather from the hoteliers who are actually using, right, this PMS, and what sort of constants remain, and maybe what sort of trends might you see emerging from all of this data?
So first and foremost, what we hear often is how important the ease of use is. And let's not discount, getting that piece right is really difficult, because when we can build new capabilities, they're always stepping up in complexity and the capability of what they're doing. And that art of trying to figure out, how do I do that in a way that people will understand? It does take time, and it's most difficult. I think right now, data, we have a lot of data in a number of ways. It is quite interesting to look at that and see how it correlates to where the market's at, right? When the market is doing well, we see more positives, right? So nobody lives in a bubble here, and all that information does come into play. I think it's going to be the basis for a lot of new, interesting capabilities as we look forward to what is coming.
All right. Amazing. Let's just zoom out a little bit in terms of from the PMS as we wrap up today, and just talk about shifts or maybe innovations that you're seeing in the hospitality industry as a whole, your passion. What's going to be happening in 2025 and beyond? What are you?
Well, I think what is happening, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say, artificial intelligence, right? AI, and seeing the impact that's going to have. Today, I think what we're seeing is it's impacting how we work. I know I was grateful this year when it was time to do my annual reviews of my team members. I was able to leverage some of that stuff to make my job a little bit easier. And I think it's whether people are creating artwork for ads, doing some team member stuff. All of those tasks are tasks that hotel people do too, right? When you think about what that looks like going forward, I think we'll see that artificial intelligence doing a lot of those things that we have manually done in the past, whether that's going through and looking at all of the guests who are arriving and what rates they're having, or looking for how we match up special requests. I think that's where the future is of how we embed those capabilities into the PMS itself. But I think right now in 2025, what you're really looking at is, how am I going to use this? And I would say, if you are out there operating a hotel and you haven't dived into the world of one of these engines, you should. Don't be afraid of it.
By engines, you're talking specifically about a GPT kind of element?
Yes, one of these artificial intelligence tools that are available, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Meta's version, whatever it is, do yourself a favor and go query and say, draw me a picture of a cat in outer space drinking beer. Just do it. Don't be afraid of it. This is one of those technologies, much like, 30 years ago when www.everything showed up on your TVs and everywhere. That's where we're at. If you're not using it, I will tell you this, the hotel next door is likely, and they will use it to take your market.
Wow. I think that is a really, really good final line, right? And in terms also of just the users of your technology internally as well, and everyone, right? Just to encourage that ease of use. Thank you so much, Charlie. This is a wrap of today's episode on Dojo Live, the first episode of our PMS series. Thank you so much for sharing these insights, not only on PMS technology, but the overall importance of usability and what hoteliers should definitely be considering when choosing the right solutions for them. Before we go today, if you could please share with our audience, if they want to know more about Skytouch or to speak with you and your team, what's the best way that they should go about doing that?
Please go to skytouchtechnology.com. That you can see more information about our products. There's a link to actually talk to folks on my team that can help you if you have any questions at all. Please check us out there. And Kim, America, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Appreciate getting to kick off this series with you.
No, thank you. It was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome back anytime. Of course, we'd also like to thank Ancora, who's the sponsor of Dojo Live, for making these conversations possible. They are a leading travel and hospitality company who helps other companies, right, accelerate their innovation through world-class engineering solutions. And of course, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to follow Dojo Live for more insights from industry leaders. You can catch our past episodes on our website, dojo.live, and upcoming discussions as well. And of course, places like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. America, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Tim.
And yes, thank you. And join us tomorrow, Wednesday, March 26th, as we dive into the all-in-one versus hub and spoke debate to explore perhaps a new way forward for PMS technology. That's going to be with Josh Graham of Cloudbeds. So until then, stay curious, stay innovative, and bye for now.